Hi, Will. Okay. Great stuff. All right. And you can hear me okay? All right. All righty. So I guess it's what? It's 1 minute to now, 2 minutes to now. I'll just take some shots, then about 2 minutes past, I'll start talking. Yeah? All right, mate. Cheers, then, mate. Oh, I tell you what you might do, Will. Perhaps send an email out during it, see if everyone's who's online or see if you want to comment. I don't know what do you think. Oh, you can see that. All right. Hi, folks. Who we got there? Five. Where can you see five watching? Oh, I've got three. I've got on my screen. All right, super. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, mate. Bye. Oops. Lower left. High and right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to you. We've got to wait a few minutes to see how many more sign in, but we've got half a dozen of you so far, so we'll four so far. Hi, Melvin. Hi, Dom. Showing off, not really showing off. As you can see where the bow is flying, Will, it's got a bit left and a bit right. I'm getting a bit warmed up, though, just taking my time. Great to see you, folks. If you want to type in your messages to let me know that you're online, then just do that, and then I can see who you are. And also, if you've got any questions, just pop them onto the, well, just type them in, I suppose. I'm running through half a dozen things today anyway. And so, like I say, it's 2 minutes past now. We'll give it till about 5 past, and then we'll get started. There's no rush today. I've got plenty of time if you have. I'm very well, thanks, Dom. Good morning, Richard. Morning, Chris. Looking good, thanks, mate. Alrighty. I'll give you a couple more minutes. Good to see you, folks. Nice to see you all joining in. Okay, what I would say to all of you who have signed in so far, morning, Luke. Is get a club in your hand if you can. Be mobile, stand up, make a few swings. Don't think you've got to be a static throughout all of this. We'll be online for about half an hour, 40 minutes. So it's always good to have a club in your hand. Give it a good waggle, and you can sort of copy what we're talking about. Okay, I'll give it one more minute. Morning, Richard, from a sunny Portugal. Hope it's nice over there. Hi, John. Colonel Connolly, nice to see you. Hope you're well. So for those of you just joined us, we'll leave it a couple more minutes, and then we'll get started. There's plenty of time today. I've got no rush at all. There's lots of stuff to talk about. This is the first of many chats that we're going to have. Um, so if you have any questions, just pop it onto the live chat, and I'll run through those later on. Mr. Storer, very amusing. Asking why I'm bringing my left knee up to my chin. It's a great question, actually. I do a lot of leg work in my swing. I get my legs to work very actively in a golf swing. If your legs don't work, and it's pressure on the upper body and on the back and what have you. So a lot of the servicemen who are disabled on one leg or have a limb missing on one leg, they have to become very active with their hands. So we talk about these exercises where they can really swish him. So you create an awful lot of power and clubhead speed without using the legs. But where we can, we motivate the leg motion. It doesn't really work. No problem, Dom. I'll talk about it later on. Alrighty, so it's 7 minutes past. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much for tuning in. I've got 13 people here. So, got a few questions sent in via email anyway, which I'll run through later on. First thing I want to talk about is how you warm up for your golf and how you warm up for any form of exercise with the golf club in your hand. The club weighs an awful lot when you're swinging it. It's very heavy. When you swing it around the body, it can pull you back. And if you're injured anyway, as many of you are physically, then it can put a big strain on those parts of your body. So what you've got to do is warm up the parts of the body you're going to be using. For those of you who are below leg amputees, you have an awful lot of stress on your hands and arms. So a great exercise for you, just get the club rotating like this. With full rotation. Like I said to you earlier, if you've got a club in your hands at home, just keep doing this. Stand up, be mobile throughout this entire lesson. You don't have to sit down and watch it. And on both sides. And that really activates these muscles in your forearm and your hands. See, the pros that an awful lot. The most amount of power in a golf swing actually comes from the back of the shoulders. You've got a huge range in your hands and arms. And that's all formed from the shoulder joint here. So again, that's an exercise. You see the pros do an awful lot. Twist around here, and that stretches out the chest. And they'll also do this as well to stretch out the chest. And just simple exercises around, like that. And that really gets the back of the shoulders looser and a bit of working, and also activated for working. Many of you need stretching exercises for your back. Lots of your physio advice will be relevant to golf as well. And anything that just gets the body warm and gets the body moving is always suitable for golf. So Jacko sent me an email last night about talking how to warm up. It's very easy to get stiff before you play. So when you watch the good players warm up. They're literally just moving the club around the body. They're just doing something with the club which gets them moving, gets them in motion, and gets the body used to exercise. So, in answer to your question, Jacko, whatever your injuries are, you've got to utilize the muscles which aren't injured, um, and really look at those areas for exercise, and then look at stretching out the back as well. The back's very important involved. Anything where you're just literally bending over. We're taught never to bounce, so you never bounce up and down when you're stretching. It's just literally just a lean and then feel that stretch slowly develop. But the hand exercise is key. The shoulder exercise is key. Then anything that gets your lower body, even just walking, standing on the spot, just jogging on the spot, just moving up and down, get the lower body active where you can. I spent a day with a chap called Pete Cowan, and Pete Cowan's one of the great coaches. Taught Lee Westwood, Darren Clark, taught many of the world's best players. And he told a very interesting story that he was working with one of the world's best players, and they just couldn't get him to swing a certain way. He kept working on this exercise and working on this drill to try and get his body to move a certain way, and it just wasn't happening. Anyway, the player became injured. This was a top 10 player in the world, by the way. The player became injured as a result of the work they were doing. What they found out subsequently was that the work they were doing was impossible because he had an injury within his shoulder, and they were trying to stretch his shoulder out and get different positions for him. And of course, it damaged him long term. So then, what Pete Cowan started to do with all the world famous players that he taught was get them measured by a physio first of all, and see what the limitations of the body are. So we don't know what's going on inside, whether they've got injuries or whether they've got tight parts of the body and what have you. So any form of loosening or any form of exercise is absolutely key for getting yourself warmed up. Any more questions? Just top them onto the live feed down here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to talk about what I'm using today. I'm inside the indoor studio here at Roehampton Club, and what I have down here is a military grade radar called Trackman, this orange machine here. And this radar here is a fisheye lens, which measures everything I do with the club head and the ball. So, former servicemen that I teach at the club here, who are members of the club, I remember using this in the tank regiments years ago to measure ballistics of a missile flight. It has its own Wi-Fi, and Tiger Woods uses one every single day, as does Dustin Johnson. All the world's best players use a Trackman Wi-Fi system every single day, and all their data goes straight to the head office, which is in Denmark. And all the data I use today, and every sort of Trackman in the world use, all that data goes to Denmark, and that becomes fed into their supercomputer, and they work out exactly how each mile an hour can perform. So on my screen over here, on the top screen here, if I try to take out the glare for you, you can see some data panels. These are data panels that we're going to discuss today. Let me hold it steady. Okay. The top data panel here is the club speed. How fast is that club head moving when it strikes the ball? The second data panel here is how fast the ball leaves that club head as it hits the ball. And that speed there is far more important than that speed there. I'm going to discuss that in great detail today. I've had a good drive there, very pleased with that. I've carried the ball 261 yards through the air, and carry is the most important thing because that's how far the ball goes from your strike to its first bounce. The bounce on a ball is very irregular. You know, if you're playing soggy days or you're playing hard golf courses, you can't always rely on the roll. On this one here, looks like I've got 17 yards of roll, or just about 17 yards of roll. But it's that number there which we're trying to optimize all the time. I've hit that ball 123 foot in the air, which is a little on the high side for me. We'll discuss that later on. Too much height, the ball doesn't go any distance forwards. Too little height, and it sort of dips out in the sky and sort of falls onto the ground. And that's my total distance there. Down here is the club path. That's the path the club took into the ball, and I'll explain that later on as well. There's either nothing there or a minus. Nothing means it's a plus. A minus means it's a going left, which I'll explain about later on as well. My face angle there. When I hit that golf ball, my face angle was 2.4 degrees open. Naturally, we want that to be 0-0 all the time, or even slightly closed, and that's what helps the ball draw back into target. You see on my ball flight here, I've pushed it slightly right of target. That's because my club face, when I hit the ball, was pointing to the right of target. My attack angle there, 4.9, that's the attack on the way up to the ball. I'll explain that later on. You can either hit down on a golf ball and hit it very low, or you can up on a golf ball and hit it high. I'll explain that later. The ball left the club face at 15.7 degrees of launch angle, which is about 2 degrees higher than I normally have. And smash factor here is simply the club head speed multiplied by that gives us the ball speed here. Smash factor optimizes at 1.5, the limit of physics is 1.5. about that later on as well. I just want to familiarize you with the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 data panels that I've put together there. And then down here, I've got a second screen, and this is called my optimizing screen. And what this tells me then is if I get my strike in between all these blue bars, I can't actually squeeze any more yardage out of that mile per hour that I've hit. Remember on this swing up here, 104 miles an hour is my club head speed. What the optimizer is telling me, Tiger would swing 104 miles an hour with a better swing. He'd carry the ball 3 yards further, but more importantly, he'd hit the ball 12 yards further in total distance. So the machine is telling me here that I've lost distance compared to Tiger Woods or Dustin Johnson or whoever for what exactly their mile an hour could do. Excuse me, in this case, that's Will. Okay, I just need to take that call. So my missus at home, just excuse me very briefly. Sorry about that. Alrighty, so I've explained now what the Trackman does, and I've explained what the other data panels are. So let's have me work through a few shots now, and we can see what's going on. Live TV indeed, BHL. Okay. Okay, so let me just hit a couple of shots now, and we'll start talking about club head speed and its relationship to ball speed. So the last swing that I made, I swung the club head at 104 miles an hour, and the ball left at 153. 104 became 153. My club head moved into the ball at 104 miles an hour, and the ball left at 153. I'd be quite happy with that ratio. I'm now going to swing at a similar speed, and let's see what happens to the ball speed. So 104 miles an hour. But look what happened. 104 has gone all the way down on the ball speed to 144. So I swung at exactly the same speed, but I've lost a full 10 miles an hour of ball speed. And the reason for that now, I've exaggerated the point here. Do you remember what I was saying about this panel here, the club path? It should be a plus all the time, but I made that one into a minus. Okay, so let me just explain that in more detail. The golf ball is my glove hand. My right hand here is the club swing. That's the path we want to optimize. If I want to make a big slap into something, I swing from this path here. I wouldn't swing at this path. And that's what we call an oblique strike. Oblique has 4 different versions in a golf swing and a combination of those 4 versions. You can either have your club face pointing to the left, to point the right, pointing to the left, going under the ball or over the ball. So when we strike a golf ball, we're trying to get the least oblique strike possible, which is a square smack into the back of the ball. If the club face is open, closed, under, or over the ball, or any combination of those 4 oblique strikes, we lose loads and loads of power. So what I did in that swing there, do you remember the data panel where I said it's minus 22? I purposely swung an oblique line to the ball. I swung across the ball like this. As a consequence of that, I don't get the full smack into the back of the ball. I get a glancing blow. And that's a killer in golf. It doesn't matter who you are, how fast you swing the club. If you get an oblique strike on a golf ball, it ain't going forward with optimum power. So if we look at my optimizer here, it's saying 104 miles an hour should really have carried that ball a full 27 yards further. So I'm losing 27 yards of distance by swiping across the ball, and that's a killer in golf. And it's something which I talk about an awful lot in the On-Course Foundation events. It's probably the biggest error, the most common error people make, is that they swing the club and they swing this way to the ball. They swing the club head to the left. It's a very, very common error there. If you watch good players swing, they swing the club up, it comes down, and then it smacks in from this angle here. If that's the hinge to a door, and this is the door slamming into its door frame here, by the time the door fits into the door frame, it's fully fitted, absolute square, but it took a big rotation through a full 90 degrees to come into that clapping action, to close into the door frame. Yep. The door wouldn't come from this angle over here. Same in a golf swing. We're trying to get that slap all the time, and it comes from here. So I recommend you get off the sofa now if you're sitting down, or put your club on the ground, and just do an action for me. You watch me here. I'll do it left-handed, and you can see it better. That's the shape of a golf swing. Yes, it's square at impact, but it comes from this path here to achieve that. So when I'm swinging, I'm trying to hit the ball from an inside path here. So I'm hitting a shot now where I'll swing slower, but I should hit the ball further. I hit that last shot there 225 yards from 104 miles an hour club head speed. So I want to swing slower now from a better path. So I've lost a full 20 miles an hour, but only hit the ball 7 yards less. So remember what I did last time? I swung at 104 miles an hour here, and that gave me 224. I've lost a full 20 miles an hour there, and hit the ball almost the same distance. My path was heavily on the inside, 10 degrees on the inside. Just to give you some data on that path into the ball, Rory McIlroy swings at 5 degrees on this angle here. Yeah, I just swung at 10 there, so I'm a full 5 degrees away from it. I try and optimize at 3, 4, or 5 degrees on the inside here. If I get on the inside, I know I maximize how far I hit the ball. Anything which is square on the outside will always be an oblique strike. Believe it or not, a square strike is not what the good players do. They don't swing the club in a perfectly straight line to the target. The club swings around the body here. Here, down here, and then bang into the back of the ball. It's that slap into the back of the ball here that provides all the power. Now, those of you who are single leg amputees on the left-hand side find this very difficult. And the reason for that is when you swing, that left leg, if you have a single leg amputee, pulls out the leg. The force of the golf swing forces you around here, and that, of course, swings you across here. So what we recommend you do with all you guys who are left leg amputees is just simply aim way out to the right of the target. Because we know if you do that, you're going to swing down toward the target anyway. Left leg amputees typically swing left, therefore they have to aim to the right. Now one would think, oh, I've got to stand absolutely square to my target. It's nonsense. Tiger Woods, Sam Snead, Arnold Palmer all pointed right at target to get the ball to finish on target. I use the analogy with a gun all the time with you guys, is that a bullet doesn't fly straight from a gun. It barrels, it rolls, it moves in the air, but it might land on its target. The key to golf is getting the ball to land on the target, but it won't always take a straight line to do that. So like I say, Arnold Palmer, Tiger Woods, Sam Snead all pointed right at target to help their ball finish back on target. The best player of all time is Jack Nicklaus, and he pointed left at target to get his ball to finish back on target. I personally look to aim right at targets. For me to hit a fairway, you can see just how far right at target I'm pointing there. My intention now is just get the ball to bend back to the centre of the fairway. Not this time. Oh, maybe. Sort of. So let's look at that again. So what did I do there? Let's have a look at the data. Swung a bit slower. Very heavy inside path. Remember, McIlroy's a +5 there. I'm a +8. But look at that ball flight. It sort of went out to the right and started to bend back a little bit. If my club face was a little more closed, that was 6 degrees open, that ball would definitely have hooked back. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try and swing again on the inside. I'm going to close that club face to play my draw spin. So I aim down the right hand side, because I'm a hooker of the ball, I like to move the ball to the left. That could be better. That's a more normal shape for me. Okay, so again, heavy on the inside, 8.7. Club face is only 1 degree open. Because I'm so much on the inside, the ball starts over there and then really bends over to the left. That path angle there is the #1 decider of how good a golfer you're going to be. If we look at what all the world's best players do, bar very, very few in history, not just recently, but in history, They all move the club from the inside to the ball here. Every single one of them. None of them swing across it. If I showed you a swing here where I'm swinging like this, you'd find it very hard to find a swing video online or a picture online of any tour professional doing that. I can show you thousands of pictures of other players coming in here. Let me dig one up for you now. One of my favourite photographs, this. Look at the angle of all those club shafts. So you've got Dustin Johnson there. You've got Rose, Koepka, McIlroy, Thomas, Tiger Woods, Molinari, DeChambeau, Schauffele, and Fowler. And look at the shaft angle there. The club's right behind them. That tells you everything you need to know. Now, at that point there, those players are about 0.3 of a second, 0.03 of a second away from striking the ball. Absolutely no time at all before they make contact with the ball. Because that club's way behind them. And that's why they all hit that big high draw spin. Now, if you liken that to a tennis player, bringing the racket from behind them into the ball, you can see what sort of shape of shot they're going to hit as well. So think of that angle I've just shown you. Hitting from the inside here. So when you're at home, you've got time to do this, you've got a mirror or a window you can swing and have a look at yourself. Just bring the club back down at this angle here. It's the absolute killer angle in golf. That'll drive the ball miles from there. All the long hitters are in this position when they hit the ball. The club isn't vertical. It's certainly not on that side of them. It's always here. Now if we take that as 90 degrees, that at 45, I drop it down to about 30. So if you rehearsal swing when you're up here, drop it down to 30. From there, you then need a big rotation of that glove hand. Or if you're right-handed, or you're a single-arm amputee, from here, it's a whipping of that right hand. The right hand comes in and over. Left hand, bang, like that. You've done all the hard work by the time you got down to here, and then you rotate it from there, and that's what gets that lovely smacking sound at the back of the ball. Alrighty, so the next thing I want to talk about on the screen here so again, my ball speed is quite high there, 150 miles an hour ball speed. Just to give you an idea, the world's top players swing their driver at 113 miles an hour, and the ball is 167 miles an hour. So those are my fastest swings, but not far off. I'm getting 150. They're getting 167. So they're a full 10% at least faster than I am. So smash factor determines your ball speed. If the club swings at that, and the ball leaves at that, then that's the number in between those 2 points. That's how we get to that smash factor. The limit of physics is 1.499 recurring. Alrighty, so I've got a question there from. Let me start. John Connolly. Dom Feltham, you want to talk about hip rotation and timing. One of my favorite topics, this. Let's look at hip rotation. The hips can't rotate independently. They're connected to your spine. And so if you think your hip rotates, it doesn't. Your trunk rotates. So I never talk about hip rotation with people, not anymore. I have done in the past when I've believed it was true. It's not true anymore. Or it never was true. So if I look at my trunk here, I go backwards and forwards like this now. And my whole trunk moves. The whole of my trunk actually moves around. I don't resist anything or turn anything independently because I can't do that anyway. I can't turn my shoulders independently without affecting my rib cage and my spine. If I try and turn my hips on their own, it doesn't work like that. And the world's best players stick their bum cheek back. So in talking about a golf swing, I don't talk much about rotation unless I'm not thinking. I think more about the right side of the body going backwards and then the left side of the body going backwards. I don't think about body turn anymore. The right hip goes backwards here. when I swing from here, I'm trying to push that back. Now, of course, I can easily say that's a hip rotation. That could easily look like a hip rotation, but it's not. It's an entire trunk rotation. But my thought process is putting my right side behind me. So your question, Dom, was hip rotation and timing. If the whole body rotates or goes backwards like that, it will then do the same thing on the way through. You've got more chance of timing. If you feel like your hips are getting out of the way, or you feel like you can't quite time it properly, that's just mistiming. It's not a case of something's happening too much or too little. It's a case of is it working together. So when I go back, I'm looking at my right hip, my right bum cheek, my right shoulder, and the whole of my right side of my trunk to go behind me. If I pull it behind me like this, my head stays pretty central, and I've got all the power to still take the back of the ball. I'm not looking for any hip slide, certainly no hip slide at all, in fact. I'm not thinking about trying to get my hips to rotate on their own. So everything works back together. So if I set up here now and I pull my right side backwards, you can see that happening. If I then put a shaft through my belt loop here, set myself up here, watch. My hips have turned 70 degrees or 70, 80 degrees there, but only because my whole right side's gone backwards. I'm not even thinking about my hips. What I am trying to do is pull my bum backwards. My aim is that I'm trying to get to a gap between my bum and the wall here. On the way back, I push that bum cheek backwards into the wall. So time is a great question, Dom, because a lot of people get confused about speed, rhythm, and what have you. So what is timing? Speed is simply that, how fast you're swinging, and it's a pretty irrelevant data point, really. Ball speed is much more important. Timing is all the elements coming together to hit the back of the ball like that. So I'm not rushing there. That's a hell of a smack at the bottom of the swing, isn't it? Yeah. So that's real timing. So in answer to your question, Dom, we don't focus on hip rotation in isolation. It's the whole of the right side goes backwards, then the whole of the left side goes backwards. And that's the shape of the golf swing. Right side back, left side back. Okay, so the next question was from Colonel Connolly. I bought a smash bag, but I find that my impact position with the bag is different to when I'm striking a ball. I have much more hip rotation. What's your advice on using an impact bag? Advice on the impact bag is it's a brilliant training aid. It's one of the best training aids of all time. What it is, we used to use tires, old tires, we'd lump those on the ground, and people would swing and then bash into the bag. What happens, of course, though, is that when you hit into the bag, the club head stops, and that arrests the movement of the hands and arms, but the lower body doesn't stop. It keeps going forward. So if I do hit into something like an impact bag, let's just pretend that's an impact bag there. In slow motion, what would happen? Right side goes backwards, left side comes in. I get into my hitting position, but that would then happen. The club head stops, my hands move forward, and my body still has a bit of momentum in there. So it's a very glamorous looking position in some ways, because we got ourselves in this huge position where we're out of the way, which the athletes do, the world's best players do. They're not static when they hit the ball. That left side is pulling out of the way. So an impact bag's brilliant, John, as long as you're aware that the club head is stopping. Now, when the club head hits the bag, it should be absolutely square. Remember, no oblique strikes. We don't want an under, an over, an open, or a close. We want an absolutely square smack into the back of the bag there. But anticipate that the lower body, the knees, will carry on moving forwards. As I hit the bag, my lower body still has momentum there, so there's nothing stopping it other than the impact of the club head running through the shaft, hands and arms, and going down to the body. So the legs got a long time before they feel that stopping motion. But I love impact bags, John. I use them an awful lot with my coaching. So from this angle here, if that's my impact bag, from here, and then rotate the hell out of it. Bang! Look at the full rotation of my hand there. If I drop it down to here, it's at that angle. I don't want to hit the ball at that angle, I want to hit the ball at that angle. So by the time I come into that impact bag, I'm absolutely square into the back of it, but of course I've come from this path here to achieve that. Great exercise, John, the impact bag. I recommend that you all have one. Okay. So BHAL 8207, looking at the image of the pros, they have a fairly flat wrist, apart from DJ who has a bow. I'm the complete opposite and my wrist is cooked. It's a very hot topic this at the minute, and I can assure you that pros forever have bowed, been flat, or been cooked. The very famous old photographs when players wore tweed jackets, Braid, Taylor Bard, and all the players from the sort of turn of the century, they all cut their wrist a little bit. That's a tremendous way of creating power, but at our level, club level, it also means the club base stays open. So if I just explain why that is. Let's camera down a wee bit. We're trying to replicate the perfect hitting position all the time, and that's where the club face is square. Yeah? If the club face is square, then the back of the left wrist will be square with it, because the back of the left wrist and the club face are the same thing. They can't work independently, they're absolutely linked. And that's why we wear a glove on the left hand, because the glove hand has total contact with the handle, and it completely controls the club face. The right hand has much less control on the handle. Look at the difference there. That's my right hand. That's how much control it's got on the handle. My glove hand has total control. Yeah, that's why we wear a glove. My right hand, you can see huge gap in there. Yeah. Glove hand, total control. So the glove hand and the club face are having to work together. If I cup that glove hand, I'll cup the face. That's how I play bunker shot. Trying to get underneath the ball, cup the hand, spoon underneath it to try and create height. That's a disaster for a driver. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to get square, remember. Bang! So in answer to your question, I'm going to show you again one of my favourite photographs here. MHAL. Just type in what your name is, MHAL. Please. Who am I talking to? Okay, so here is McElroy. Thanks, Baz. Here is McElroy at address. Look at that glove hand, absolutely flat. Yeah. Now next to him is Tiger. He's got a slight bend in his glove hand. Very unusual for him, that position. And the best player of all time, Jack Nicklaus. I'm trying that to a slightly different. Ah, that's it. You can see his glove hand is completely flat. So what he's doing there, Baz, he's setting himself up. They're all setting themselves up with a flat glove hand, because when they hit the ball, they want a flat glove hand because they want a flat club face. So here's the deal: stand in front of a mirror and get your left arm, your glove hand, and the shaft of the club completely in line. Not slightly in line or slightly out. I'm talking absolutely ramrod straight together there. Now look at your glove hand, and it should be absolutely flat, and that will determine your club face then. Your rehearsal drills. We're not playing golf for months here now, so you might as well do all these rehearsal drills to get better over the winter, over the summer, and swing club back, and just keep checking and feeling that position there. This swing studio that I'm in now, I have a socking great mirror right there. I do loads of my training for myself and for my members in here. It's a tremendous way of seeing and feeling at the same time. So what I'll get them to do is stand in front of them and say, hey, look, left arm shaft of the club form a straight line, and then glove hand here. And by the way, I'm talking single figure handicappers who go through the same process with me now. And I'll say, look, do this exercise here. I want to move the club backwards and forwards without cupping it or creating bends in it. And the reason for that is very simple, but very important. The left shoulder to the club head is the longest distance we've got in the golf swing. It's where all the power comes from. And that lever, and that lever, all three of those create power. So if I had an axe, I'm just trying to swing one arm, I'd go up, one lever is utilised, my shoulder lever, my elbow lever is utilised, and my wrist lever. And if I wanted to crack that down, I would go up and then down, bang! You can see. Bang. If I misalign that lever as you're doing in your golf swing, I swing up, it's not as powerful, and it looks weird. Same in the golf swing here. If I have a cupping wrist like that, I'm not going to swing as powerfully as I ought to. So I set myself up in the mirror, so I do my pupils here. Big long lever down here. Look at the power there now. From there, up. That right side's gone backwards, remember. I'm not talking about my hips in isolation. Right side up, and I check that left hand position there. Look at the mirror there. Is it flat? Yeah, if it's slightly cupped, that's going to give me an open face, which gives me an oblique strike into the ball. Remember, oblique is weak. So Baz, what we're doing here, left hand and arm form a straight line. Not behind, not in front. From there, normal swing up, then check it. Have a good look. Different angles. Check it there. A lot of people will say, though, Baz, that Dustin Johnson's a bit of a freak of nature as well. And the guys who do bow that wrist, so that's bow, that's flat, and that's cupped. What you're saying, Baz, that you get cupped. Flat, perfect. Bowed is very hard. You've got to be so super strong to do that. And just to give you an example of super strong, this is the great Ben Hogan. Look at those wrists. I mean, there's barely any wrist there at all. If you can see that properly on the screen, that's a picture of him gripping a club at the top of the swing. And you can see just how big his wrists are. So lots and lots of good players will go for just a flat wrist. I've set a picture of Dustin Johnson just to highlight your point. Try it out of the light. There we go. That's a very, very hard position. So if I were you, I would always go for flat and working it over the next few months. Okay, so Dom, you've asked me, and that's the power. What are you referring that to? Oh, okay, are there any more questions? Anything else you want me to highlight? What we talked about there? Anything which I've not explained well enough, and you want me to repeat? So what I'll be doing over the next few months, as it's likely to be months, isn't it? Is you can work on your game at home. And so the exercises are, keep yourself mobile. Keep doing the exercises where you stretch out like this. Now, that's not the angle of a golf swing, but that is. So get used to the body moving in its normal motion for a golf swing. Build up some strength in your hands and arms. If you can, get 2 clubs and rotate them. Very difficult. I've not got very strong wrists. But that's how you build up your strength in your hands and arms, particularly if you're a one-armed golfer. You know, start with one hand, go through as much rotation as you can, and over time, if you can add 2 clubs, then do that. Get a bit of rotation in there and build up your strength. I teach very, very strong people and very, very weak people. And some weak people hit the ball miles because they're golf strong. And some very strong people hit the ball no distance at all because they're not golf strong. So what is golf strength? It's just the ability to move the club around your body and control it. So as I sit at the top here, I support the club. I'm not gripping it tightly, but I'm supporting it. If it's supported, it's under my control. And I can swing down at speed. If I grip the life out of it, I can't swing with any rhythm. So what I'm trying to do all the time is support the club up here. I can support that. And if you look at some of the world's great players, they can take 3, 4, 5 clubs and support with one hand up there because they're so golf strong. That's a really unusual position, isn't it? If you think about it. Top of the swing there. So you can develop your golf strength and get rotating as well. Now, one of the exercises again, which you can do, and I highly recommend you do this for your putting. Let me find the wall here. Okay, so what I do here, push it back a bit. And pros do this in their hotel rooms all the time, and they're bored to death. They'll stand with their head touching the wall. They then get their putter out and push the putter against the wall. And straight backwards and doesn't damage the putter, but it might damage the wall. It might be on an outside wall or something. Head into the wall, and that means my eyes are directly where the ball would be if I was putting. That's what we all need as well when we're putting. And then run the putter head backwards and forwards. Because a putting stroke, if we pretend this club I'm using as a putter, should be backwards and forwards, and we don't want any oblique in any strike. And if I run it backwards and forwards on the wall over here, that's a tremendous way for developing your putting stroke. And I assure you, you don't need loads of technique for putting. What you do need is rehearsal of the same motion of the club going backwards and forwards along the wall. Alrighty, so any more questions? Looks like none have come through. If you do have any questions, send me an email, richard.harrison@roehamptonclub.co.uk, or send it via Will. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. So what I'll do is I'll get some dates for next week, and I will do a similar sort of thing. Think of anything. I love that question there, John. You've been on the internet. That's brilliant. Think of anything you've got for me. Just send it along. I'll answer it in the session, because there's only so much I can talk about in here without you being here. But ask any question you've got, because the game is so complicated, it's so varied, and it's so unbelievably interesting. That there'll be loads of stuff that you'd look at and think, well, I wonder what that means. I wonder what that position is. Why do some players do this and some players do that? That's what Baz was asking earlier on. It's a fantastic question. Okay, so you're right, Don. The hotel owners do not appreciate that the tour pros scraping putters along their walls, but tour pros are pretty selfish people. Okay, so John Connor just asked me a question. What do I think about single plane swings like Mo Norman? Mo Norman, look him up. M-O-E, the Mo, and then Norman, as you spell Norman normally. He was a highly autistic, highly talented, very unusual, very likable pro from the 60s and 70s who couldn't cope with tournament golf. He was an incredibly talented player, and every top professional, from Tiger Woods, Lee Trevino, Sam Snead, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, they all credited Mo Norman with being the best ever striker of a golf ball, and the purest and the most consistent striker of a golf ball. He would stand the range for hours, hitting thousands and thousands of balls, and just hit them down on the same line. There's very famous photographs online of people like Nick Faldo watching Mo Norman hit balls. And if you type Mo Norman golf into YouTube, M-O-E Norman golf into YouTube, there's loads of old videos in the 70s and 80s. And Peter Kessler on his Twitter feed has an awful lot of information about and videos where he interviewed Mo Norman. And you can see a very really intelligent person, but who struggles to communicate as we would do ordinarily. He talks in very brisk 3 and 4 word sentences. He's very certain of himself as well. Everything he says is come from an absolute place of certainty in his mind. And all the players credit him with just being a fantastic player. But he had a very, very quirky swing. Let me just demonstrate what he did. Great question, John. Thank you. So he'd set up to the ball. Let me just get the video camera down. He'd set up to the ball in a very wide stance, and he placed his club 2 feet behind the ball. So you and I would normally start with our club head here. He had it way back here. Just put that camera down so you can see it a bit better. Every top player in history starts here. He started here. So from this angle here, we start there. He started here. And his rationale for that, whenever he got asked, was, well, I'm eliminating 2 foot the swing. And to him, that's perfectly logical. To everyone else, it was perplexing. Why eliminate that 2 foot the swing? But he did. That's what he did. He stood very wide. He held the club not in the fingers like the majority of players do. He split his hands and he held it very much in the palm of his hands. Again, if you look at the size of his forearms, he was incredibly strong. He developed so much goal strength over the years, hitting thousands of balls a day. Again, a lot of good players do have an Asperger's or an autistic element to their personality. They like repetition, they like things to work, they like looking at the mechanics of something, they like something to be an instant response, and they like to be cocooned. It's not unusual to find that top pros have some element of that in their personality. So, and what he would then do, he'd set himself up, he did the same thing over and over again. If you watch any video of Mo 30 years ago to 20 years ago, 10, he did the same routine every single time. Nothing changed. And then what he did, he take the club back to there. That's all he did. He then push it through and swing to there. It's a really odd looking short swing. Go here to here. Now, John Connor's question is, what do I think of a single plane swing? What Mo Norman did was he set his hands up here and swung the club up and down on the same line. Other pros, the majority of pros, apart from Bryson DeChambeau, set an angle here and then swing up off that angle. That's the angle they start at, and they swing up off that angle. What Mo Norman did was start here and swing around. Single plane swings are fine, John, but they can only hit the ball a certain distance. And so you lose a lot of leverage in a single plane swing. And Mo Norman was strong. I mean, he was physically, robust, big, strong hands and arms. And what he'd do then, he'd just swing a way which suited his body. But it's a very unusual way of swinging. Every pro's tried to imitate and got no way near. He was a complete freak of golfing nature, really. And a brilliant brain. I mean, really highly, highly intelligent. So when you look at someone like Bryson DeChambeau swinging on a single plane, there's loads of videos of him actually not doing what he thinks he's doing. And there's a big phrase in golf called "feel is not real," and there's loads of examples of pros over the years, and a myth's been created about a certain shot they hit. And then by the time you get to watch it again now, you can see it's completely different to what they're describing, what they're feeling. But they're the players; that's what they felt. So with a Bryson DeChambeau single plane swing, he doesn't use it with the driver. Don't forget, when he wants to really hit the ball a long way, he doesn't use a single plane swing. So like I say, it's a great way of getting the ball to go straight, but not quite as powerful as what it could be. All right then, folks. Anything else you want to ask? Or are we done? Alrighty. So I will send Will some dates for our next meeting. Thank you very much indeed, guys, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. All the best.